Hello, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast started by two Formula One superfans. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your foremost host, Luigi. And today we're taking you back to the 1959 season. So let's go.
Okay, here we are, 1959. Can you believe we've done, have we done 10 seasons? This is our 10th season, Luigi.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
And this feels very, very concentrated.
It does.
You know, I really feel the 1950s. A lot of unfortunately, a lot of the tragedies seem to have a lot of resonance with me for some reason.
Yes.
Because we're just so not used to tragedies in Formula One anymore.
No. And I don't know about you, but I didn't really know about this. So I've really dived in and learnt about it. And yeah, it's actually really hit hard, some of the things that have happened in this era.
I mean, it shows the difference in our current Formula One thinking in the 50s era. Like, a lot of us would have thought Perez second half 2023 was a tragedy.
Yes,
but no, he was fine. He just kept finishing. He kept qualifying in Q2 and stuff and finishing 7th and 6th, you know, in the history's most dominant Formula One car.
Exactly. That's like first world problems, really.
It was.
If anyone from 1959 heard about that, they'd go, that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, that's not a tragedy at all. He gets to go home.
Yeah,
he gets a $6 million. He gets a multi-million-dollar paycheck.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got a very interesting start to this season because it's the first time that we don't have a world championship on the grid. Both Fangio and at this time Hawthorne still hadn't had his accident, I don't think. So at this stage, he's retired as well. So, yeah, no world champ, first time. And the Van Wall also had to withdraw from Formula One, and the second and third place winners of the 1958 season, Moss and Brooks, were looking for new drives. So big movers and shakers at the top there.
Yeah, this seems to be the norm. Like, these top teams seem to withdraw from Formula One all the time, and it leaves these top drivers without a drive. So it forces the silly season to start straight away, and with the top drivers means it's quite a bit of pressure, I imagine. It
is. So Brooks went to Ferrari, and Moss, he did something weird. He hedged his bets between two teams, racing for both the Rob Walker racing team, driving a Cooper Climax, and also a BRM team where he drove a front-engined BRM.
That's a very unique driving arrangement. The Rob Walker not only let him drive for BRM if it was a front-engined car, because he didn't want his number one driver driving for another team where it was rear-engined, where he saw that as the superior car.
Yeah, so I would say so too.
Like, as long as you're driving in a car that's a bit slower and crappier than my car,
that's right.
It's okay.
Yes, yeah. But as we said, he was probably the most progressive team owner at the time and allowed drivers, like he contracted drivers for particular, performance and things. So I'm not surprised. But, yeah, it is very strange. You certainly wouldn't see it today. So Aston Martin are making their F1 debut this season. But their car was overweight and outdated, especially in comparison with the Coopers. It will be interesting to see how they do.
Yeah, the interesting thing about hearing about Aston Martin making their debut, the same name as the team that currently run in Formula One, that only made their Formula One return maybe, was it 2 or 3 years ago? Maybe 4.
Yes.
So this is where it started. So those of you, when Aston Martin talk about their F1 heritage, this is it. Yes. 1959.
Yes.
I doubt there's not one single person that is continuing from then to. But it's still probably the same trademark and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah, it would be the same company exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So there were rumours that Brabham would sign with this new Aston Martin team, but in the end he stayed with the Cooper Car Company, which turns out to be a very good move by Brabham. And I will just say Brabham has, without foreshadowing too much, and this is talking about the late 60s, Brabham, I'd say staying with Cooper was more of a conservative move, and his conservative moves were very good moves, as it turns out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he sort of he could read the paddock a little bit, I think, Brabham. So he made some good decisions in his career. But yeah, like you say, let's not foreshadow anything. So joining Brabham at Cooper is Bruce McLaren and American Maston Gregory, which I don't know if you remember. He was the one of the stars of the controversy at Monza last year, which saw him being disqualified for sharing a car, but then reinstated as fourth with the other guy. I can't remember his name now. But, yeah, so he's now gone to Cooper as well.
When you say star, why do you say what the, like, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
We don't have Gregory for me. You mentioned Bruce McLaren and Maston Gregory, and I'm like thinking, well, McLaren, yes.
Yes, he's
we
a
still
star.
We still say his name now.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't say Gregory F1 team, do we?
Yeah, no, we don't. No.
Yeah, so interestingly, the Cooper team asked Coventry Climax to make them a new, larger 2.5 litre engine. So not only do they have the rear engine cars, making them lighter and more nimble, they also have a more powerful engine. So this is the real step up by the Cooper team.
Yeah, I think everyone would be looking at them and being very concerned. So interesting. And our unlucky but very consistent friend John Behrer also joins Ferrari this season alongside Philip Hill and Cliff Allison. And Cliff Allison left Lotus because he felt the cars were too fragile and it would only be a matter of time until something vital fell off. Like that's actually a quote. I don't know if it's a quote from Allison, but yeah, that's a quote from a driver.
Yeah, I know, and many drivers said that, and a lot of drivers would say that about all the cars Chapman built, because his philosophy was that those cars only needed to last 3 kilometres. 300, yeah. Imagine if they got pole position all the time. That's all they got. they need to last 300 kilometres. And so he would strip them of anything that was unnecessary, which meant all weight saving, all reliability saving, anything that would just make it faster.
Wow. Okay. Well, it worked for him. And a surprise for you, Luigi. Guess who's back this season with a Maserati 250F with his own Scuderia?
Who? Luigi someone?
Ugolini.
Oh, Ugolini. We should check Ugolini's first name. Maybe it's Luigi. It could be Luigi Ugolini. I might check that later. So, I'm writing that down right now.
He has started his own team and he's got 2. I don't know who the drivers are and they're probably not even going to get mentioned throughout our podcast, but he's back.
That's awesome, and I hope there are some more classic Ugolini moments this season. I mean, he's a passionate protester about many things, but surely his protesting passions will go up another level, because not only is he protesting for a team that he's an employee of, he's protesting for his own team with his own name. I mean, that's massive.
Yeah, I hope he comes up. I do. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Porsche is also back this year with Von Trips, as well as the Lotus team with Graham Hill. So it will be interesting to see how they go this season. Ferrari's racing a new version of the Dino, the 256.
So is that the same car they debuted at the last race of 58, the Italian Grand Prix, and Hawthorne wouldn't drive it because he considered it too slow?
Yep, that's the one.
Excellent. Yeah.
And Enzo, the commander, is continuing to use his front-loaded engines because at this stage he thinks that they're more reliable. So he's still not budging. Good old Enzo. Yep. And we have 8 races this year with some changes to the circuits, which we'll cover as we go through the races one by one. But some of the big changes are the Argentinian GP was cancelled, mainly because they've got no Argentinian drivers anymore. Both Fangio and Gonzalez retired. So, there was really lack of interest there. USA is hosting his first Formula One run GP.
Does this mean the other USA race that doesn't even follow the same rules or cars or drivers, is that one out then?
No, it's still there. Sorry, Louis.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah. Yes. So, yeah, it's weird now because we've got 2 races in the US, one run to the Formula One rules and one not. So, yeah, I can see trouble there, but, yeah, it's still there.
You know, why don't they just make those 2 races at the same time? Just call it.
Yes.
Just make them at exactly the same time, maybe side by side in the same city, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's head off to race 1.
Okay.
You ready?
Ready.
So race 1 is Monaco this year because obviously Argentina is gone. So it's the 10th of May as well. So, you know, remember we always used to have that 5-month gap between race 1 and race 2. So we've got race 1 on the 10th of May. It's 100 laps and 16 drivers, and there's a 3x2x3 formation here. And once again, as is the rule in Monaco, only the fastest 16 would be allowed to qualify. So practice was again hectic. Moss set the pace in the first session, only to be beaten by Brabham in the second session, followed by Brooks and Berra. So final practice, however, saw Moss win the fastest lap of 1 minute 39.6 seconds, Berra improving his time with 1 minute 40 and Brabham staying on his earlier time to take the last spot on the front row. So it's the Ferrari Cooper on the front row.
Interesting.
And,
okay.
And then Brooks and Phil Hill, 4th and 5th in the Ferraris on the second row. So we have race start. Berra out-accelerated Moss and Brabham to take the lead, with the whole field following nose to tail by the end of the first lap. Sorry.
Yes, that's like a typical Monaco race here so far. And there are actually 3 F2 cars in this race. Von Trips for Porsche, Cliff Allison for Ferrari, and Bruce Halford for Lotus. And they were coming last, as you can imagine. And just flagging very quickly, Berra's in the lead. He's such a consistent performer. He's always up there. And as we know, he doesn't ever win a race. But look at him just jumping into the lead with that front engine old school Ferrari.
Yes. And we do also have to mention that Jean Berra has started his own F2 team. It's a Porsche team, and he actually asked Maria Teresa De Filippi to drive in it, which is really progressive of him. Like, I was really impressed to hear that. Unfortunately, she failed to qualify in the F2 race. But he started his own F2 team.
That's really interesting, quite innovative. And this F2 team was apparently the cause of some ill feeling with Enzo Ferrari, because it was against their agreement that he did not race against Ferrari in any race. I guess Enzo Ferrari felt that F2 team was a threat of some sort to his F2 team.
Yes.
So needless to say, it put a strain on their relationship and the season generally.
Okay. So I'm going to guess that Berra didn't get a fancy blue Ferrari to drive for his debut. Like Hawthorne got with his British green Ferrari on his debut. So Enzo's toughened up now. He's not doing those nice little favours anymore. That's it. It's his way or the highway.
Yeah.
I still think, I think he's lucky to get a seat. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So back to lap 2 at Monaco. Von Trips suddenly spun on an oil patch and the other F2 cars couldn't avoid him, putting all 3 out of the race. So, they're the F2 cars. I kind of had to mention that. I didn't really want to mention them, but we have to mention them because of Von Trips.
Yeah, they do that a bit. They do that a bit this year, actually.
Yes.
They put these star drivers at F2, which forces us to mention them.
Exactly. Back to the front of the race, Berra was holding onto a very small lead over Moss and Brabham, with P. Hill. I'm going to say P. Hill, but because there's a G Hill. So P. Hill beginning to lose ground on the lead 3, but breaking off from the rest of the field. Yes,
this is pretty good by Berra in the, like I said, the older, heavier Ferrari, still ahead of the quick and lighter Coopers. When we know it's not easy to pass on Monaco, but
that's right.
It's probably may have been easier back in these days when there was less aerodynamic stuff to deal with.
Yes.
But still not easy.
So they stayed the same. This stayed the same until lap 21, when at last Moss slipped past Berra on the approach to the chicane. On the next lap, Brabham moved ahead of Berra, slowing Ferrari to take second place. So
that didn't take long.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So, yes. So on lap 22, the Lotus of Graham Hill caught fire and he was forced to retire. At the start of lap 25, Berra's engine of the Ferrari fell apart, moving P. Hill into third.
So a couple of things here. The words "the engine fell apart."
I know.
Does this mean the engine fell out of the car? It's just unusual words. I know Mike Lang has a flavour of words sometimes.
He does. Yes.
I mean, was Enzo Ferrari using, because he was not happy that Berra had the other car? Oh, this is Berra's car? Yeah, it is Berra's car.
Yeah, it's Berra's car. Yeah.
So did he use plastic screws to put the engine together out of spite?
Oh,
Who knows?
You hope not. You hope not, but you never know. So behind Phil Hill, Brooks in the Ferrari and Shell in the BRM were having a tremendous duel with Trintignant in the Coopers, who was a lap down after needing to pit to fix a sticking throttle.
Oh, so he's a lap down but still fighting, which is good.
Yeah. So Moss was now in command, and by lap 40, he was just under 30 seconds ahead of Brabham in a very lonely second.
That's a really big lead considering this is Monaco. That's like nearly a second a lap.
Yeah.
That's massive.
It's huge. Hill then lost 2 places to Shellen Brooks, who overtook him following a spin at the casino. He spun again 8 laps later on lap 44, but was able again to rescue his car and carry on. Shell then spun at the same place on lap 48, but was not so lucky as he pulled his car out of the straw bales. Both the oil and water radiators were split, and that was the end of his race. In fact, all 3 BRMs were out of the race now, with Flockhart and Bonnier also having mechanical issues. And the point of all of that story was that there's only 7 cars left in the race. So by lap 75 of 100, a Moss victory was looking certain, with the lead over Brabham being a clear minute.
What we do know of this era is that reliability is not great, and big things still happen late in the race. And remember, being in second place is great in this era because the chances of the leader retiring is pretty high.
It's high.
But why did Monaco limit their drivers, limit 16 cars? Because they know that most of them are going to retire.
Yeah, I know. So following the 2 lead cars was Brooks in the Ferrari, Trintignant in the Coopers, Salvadori in a Cooper Maserati, and Philip Hill in the Ferrari, who had spun again and was forced to change 2 buckled wheels, and finally coming in last was McLaren.
Like last being 7th.
Yeah.
Like if I entered this race, I would be 8th.
Okay, fair point.
And that's 3 points in 2024 standings. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, just by driving and staying out of everyone's way.
And staying on the track.
Yeah.
At lap 81, Moss drew into the pits to investigate a strange noise coming from the transmission, but nothing could be found, so he resumed, only to come to a stop on the circuit, his engine dead, like it just wouldn't drive.
Yeah, it turns out that this noise was the sound of his chances of winning a championship slipping through his fingers. It's a unique sound that only Moss hears.
Yeah, the mechanic's going, we don't hear anything. Get back out there.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Moss says, I can hear it. They say, get out there.
Oh, poor guy, man.
Yeah.
So now it was whether Brooks could catch Brabham for first. The gap was only 10 seconds with 19 laps to go. Seems like a fairly reasonable equation. But Brabham responded with setting the fastest lap and pulled away to score his first ever championship victory.
Yeah, that's pretty special. So when Brabham wins his first race and wins by 20 seconds over Brooks, who apparently, along with Phil Hill, was suffering from the heat and fumes in the very enclosed cockpit of the allegedly reliable Ferrari. Well, I guess it was reliable. It finished second and third, as long as the drivers didn't pass out or something.
Yeah, as long as they didn't smoke out their drivers.
Yeah. So this is also a first win for the Cooper factory team. They had one with Rob Walker the year before, but this is the one that counts for them because it was under their custodianship, their car. So their formal first win. So first win for Brabham, first win for Cooper. And also this is the first World Championship win by an Australian Formula One driver. So 3 firsts in one race. And we are Australians, Rosa and I.
Yes.
Rosa has psychologically more Italian heritage than myself, but we still would take the Australian Grand Prix win.
I like the fact that there's an Australian World Championship winner of a drive, a race, I guess, in the 50s. It's good. I'm glad we're there. I'm glad we're represented.
Yeah.
So the final results are Brabham, Brooks, Trintignant, Phil Hill and McLaren.
Yeah, so I mean the championship follows that too. So Brabham
Yes.
on 8, Brooks on 6, Trintignant on 4th, Phil Hill 3 and Bruce McLaren 2. And we've got Cooper leading the championship with 8 points. Now remember, Ferrari, did Ferrari win the 58 constructors? No, Vanwell did.
Vanwell did,
And here's Ferrari, and Vanwell pull out and Ferrari are behind Cooper already. So Cooper have 8 and Ferrari have 6.
Yeah. Okay, on to race 2, the Dutch Grand Prix. So it's the 11th of May and it's 75 laps and 15 drivers. And again, we have a 3x2x3 grid formation. So BRM arrived at Zandvoort a week early to do some extensive testing on their brakes after the trouble they had in Monaco with pretty much all their drivers.
Well, it's interesting we hear in this era teams were testing their cars during the season a lot. These days they're pretty much banned.
Yeah.
But, and it's regulated very tightly, which is their way of trying to making F1 closer. But in those days they did a lot of testing to fix those things.
Yes.
So it's interesting to hear that.
Yeah, well, it gets stranger, Luigi, because Moss did a lot of that testing for BRM, resolving the brake issues, then jumped in his Robert Walker Cooper for practice, and surprise, surprise, he was fastest.
Wow. BRM wouldn't be happy with that, I don't think, giving him all that practice time against their car.
Yeah,
you know?
I know.
And I wonder if he really did fix those brake issues. Like, did he fix them to the fullest?
Well,
or was it like an 80% fix?
Still, 80% fix on brakes would probably be good, I reckon.
Yeah.
Better than
True.
0% fix. So as we said, so Aston Martin are debuting at this race, but unfortunately were very unimpressive and suffered from poor acceleration. So we won't be mentioning them again, needless to say.
For this race or the season?
Well, definitely not for this race.
Okay, yeah.
So final practice on Saturday saw Moss improve his time to 1 minute 36.2, but this time was beaten first by Joachim Bonnier taking pole in the BRM and then Brabham, both recording 1 minute 36 dead. Berra was 4th and Graham Hill in the Lotus 5th on the second row. Meanwhile, at Ferrari, the team manager was asking the Dutch organisers to allow them to enter a 4th car in the race, which in the end was allowed, and Cliff Allison, who drove an F2 in Monaco, was allowed to start from the back of the grid in an F1 car.
Wow, I wonder what was behind that. Like, why push for the 4th car? I wonder if it's got something to do with Berra, you know?
Yeah, I tried to find out why they really wanted a 4th car to enter the race. I couldn't find anything, but yeah, maybe they were just, I don't know, trying to blood a new driver. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
So as the flag fell on race day, Bonnier took the lead, but it was Gregory in the Cooper that shocked everyone and slipped into second after qualifying 7th.
This is why he's a star.
Yeah. Moss, however, was trying to conserve his tyres after seeing some wear at practice. Remember, he did have a lot of practice on this track. He had a slow start and was passed by nearly half the field before he got his skates on. Out the front, Gregory was really pressing Bonnier and early on lap 2 overtook him to take the lead. The pair then opened up a gap to Brooks in 3rd place, who was leading a pack comprising of, you name it, Shell, Brabham, Berra, Graham Hill, Moss, Ireland, Philip Hill and Trintignant.
As in the generally considered better drivers.
Yeah. Yes. Later
these two other drivers are racing out at front, wrecking their tyres pretty much.
Who the hell are these
enjoying
two?
being first and second.
Yeah, while it lasts. So later that same lap, Brabham got past Shell and Brooks to take 3rd. By lap 10, there was little change except that Brabham was gaining on the lead cars of Gregory and Bonnier. Gregory's Cooper then started jumping out of gear and he had to give up the lead to Bonnier. 3 laps later, Brabham also passed Gregory. Looks like Gregory's in a bit of trouble, hey? Meanwhile, the battle for fourth was heating up, with Moss overtaking Graham Hill and beginning to harass Berra, who was in fourth. Moss and Berra approached the Tarzan hairpin side by side, and somehow Moss squeezed in front. On the same lap, Graham Hill also overtook Berra, but smoke was entering Hill's cockpit. After the fire at Monaco, he decided to pit and investigate. Everything seemed fine, so he continued, but he lost heaps of places and was now in 12th.
Oh, that's so bad. The Lotus was doing so well, you know?
I know, but you would stop, wouldn't you? Because if you were like on fire the race before, you'd go,
Yeah.
I don't really want that to happen again.
And I will say one quick thing about the car being on fire. Because nothing bad happens to the driver or the car, that must have been awesome to see. Because I'm sure that fire was flicking behind.
Yes.
And old school Formula One cars all open. It would have been great.
It would have been, a thrill. So Moss pulled away from Berra and soon overtook Gregory and closed in on the lead pair of Bonnier and Brabham by lap 30. Brabham took the lead from Bonnier. It was only a matter of time, wasn't it? But his car too started jumping out of gear, allowing Bonnier to repass Brabham. Wow, this is a good battle up there.
Yeah.
Moss, however, continued the chase and at lap 46 finally caught Brabham and passed him after outbraking him at the end of the straight after 3 laps of fierce racing by the Australian driver.
This is an amazing comeback drive by Moss. And Brabham was known for being a very tough driver on track. And it would have been amazing to see these two battling it out because Moss was highly talented. Brabham was talented too, but Brabham was not one for letting people pass.
No.
I don't think he's waving it. He's not waving anyone through.
No, he's not. And remember, his whole race pedigree came from dirt tracks in Australia. So, he had a very aggressive driving style. So, it would have been a great battle to see. At lap 47, Shell passed Berra to take 5th, only to retire with a broken gearbox. By lap 60, Moss was on Bonnier's tail, and as they lapped Berra, Moss took the opportunity to get into the lead. Moss was looking good to make up for his bad luck at Monaco, but on lap 63, he crawled into the pits with a broken gearbox.
Wow. And it seems that this season it's the gearboxes that cause the trouble and, of course, bad luck gremlins for Moss. That's 2 races in a row where Moss was pretty much a shoo-in for the win, especially this one with his comeback drive.
Yes.
That had just gone.
Yeah. Bonnier took the lead again and cruised home by 15 seconds over Brabham to bring BRM their first championship victory and Maston Gregory third.
Wow. So it took Moss to retire from what was an easy win to give Bonnier his only win in his 15-year career. So Bonnier's driving for a long time, so get ready and get used to his name. And Paul Berra, by the way. That's 2 races in a row of firsts. So Brabham's first, BRM's first win, Cooper's first win. And after an almost decade of effort by BRM, they started in 1950. They get their first pole and win. Which is amazing for BRM to achieve that finally. So we got them in the 50s in the end. A bit of a laughing stock at the start, weren't they?
They were, absolutely.
Yeah. So good on them.
Right.
So that means, the championship is Brabham's leading the Drivers' Championship with 15 points, followed by Bonnier on 8 and Brooks third with 6. And then in the Constructors, we've got Cooper Climax leading with 14 points. BRM now up into second or equal second with Ferrari that have 8, but I think they're classified as second because they have a win.
Yes.
And Lotus fourth with 3 points. So, interesting start to the season and Brabham doing well and where's Moss?
Gosh. We might need a deep dive into Moss's bad luck. Anyway.
Yeah, let's have a good... You have people sometimes do top 10 drives by Moss. How about the top 10 bad luck stories for Moss?
Yes.
And one of those will be the time he helped Hawthorn not get disqualified. That would be... not bad luck, but it's something that he did, right? Yeah.
Okay, on to race 3. We are at the French Grand Prix. It's July the 5th. We have 50 laps, 21 drivers and a 3x2x3 grid formation. So we're back at Reims for this race.
Oh, yes. And
Luigi,
you know
what?
I was looking at the pages. That was my bad. We're going to keep it in because it's natural, right?
Yes,
We are human.
yes, yeah.
And in the race past, this race was supported by a 12-hour sports car race the day before, but with the growing number of accidents due to driver fatigue, the organisers actually decided to abandon it and support the race with an F2 race after the F1 race instead. So I think that's a good decision that they didn't jam it all in, because it seems that the drivers of this era couldn't stop themselves. They had to do it all, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And it was so crazy them coming from like a 12-hour sports car race to then race in Formula One. And, yeah, we heard so many accidents happening because of fatigue. So, yeah. Good decision. Okay, so Brooks set the fastest lap during first practice, with the fast circuit really suiting the Ferraris, and his time was 2 minutes 19.4 seconds. Only Moss could get anywhere near him with 2 minutes 19.9 seconds.
Now, this is where it's interesting, because Moss is driving a BRM, so it was worth him helping them with their brakes.
Yes.
But his father's team, British Racing Partnerships, BRP, so close to BRM.
Yes.
In this race, as part of a deal he had with the Rob Walker team.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, this is the first example of title sponsorship in F1 this year. So BRP was the first Formula One team to sell the entire identity of the team in return for sponsorship income. And that was sponsored by a company called Yeoman Credit Limited, Ltd. Yeoman?
Yeah, I would say Yeoman. I think that's Yeoman.
Yeoman. Yeoman, of course. Yeah, that sounds right. And that's a hire purchase company that from August 1959 became Yeoman Credit Racing for the 1960 season. So BRP was given a sum of £40,000 just to buy their equipment and £20,000 a year to operate the team. So when we currency convert this, £40,000 in 1959 is about £840,000 in today money. So a decent amount of money.
That is decent.
Of course, in today's Formula One world, their budgets are 200 and something million.
Yes.
But in those days, 840,000 was more than enough to run the team, I would expect. But what I was going to say that's off track a little is to say, you know how you get these F1 drivers that come in and they have their management dads?
Yes.
Some of them haven't turned out that well.
No.
But most of them been, funnily enough, fairly good, like Max Verstappen with his father, Jos Verstappen.
Yes.
And they're still a team. But even Lewis Hamilton came in with his dad, Anthony Hamilton, and they sort of broke up their management relationship because Lewis wanted to be his own person and all that sort of thing. So it's just interesting that Moss is driving his dad's team car. I guess it's no different to Lance Stroll and Lawrence Stroll in 2023.
Right.
2024.
Yeah. And I was really surprised because you don't really think of like sponsorship coming into Formula One until like, I don't know, this late 70s, 80s, really. Yeah. So it was interesting that, you know, this happened in the 50s pretty much, well, for the beginning of the 60s season. So...
yeah, and linked to Moss, of all people.
I know.
You would have thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't have this, British teams don't do that.
Yeah,
because he seems to have that mentality with British teams, Formula One, full stop. So, but when it comes to money, he's suddenly got a different attitude, maybe. No, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to Moss.
Maybe his dad did. I mean, it's good money for his dad.
Anyone to help his dad out. He was earning that £1,000 a race before. Was that Hawthorn?
Yes.
Anyway, I'm sure they were all earning roughly that in those days. So, yeah.
So,
anyway.
Moss and Brooks didn't even bother going out during the second practice, and they were content to watch the other drivers try to improve their time.
Sounds a bit cocky to me.
I know. I thought the same. I just imagine them sitting together, drinking a beer, laughing at the rest of the field. Maybe
they would have been smoking for sure as well. They would have been smoking. Yeah.
So Brabham secured second spot with 2 minutes 19.7, and P. Hill got the last spot on the front row with 2 minutes 19.8 seconds, pushing Moss onto the second row alongside Berra.
You'd think he'd have more pride for his dad's team, his new team, but he learned his lesson not to just sit back and watch.
Yeah. Well, now he's not even on the front row.
Yeah.
So race day was very hot to the point where the tarmac on parts of the circuit was beginning to melt.
Wow, that is hot. And will the race be cancelled? I'm guessing not. In fact, I'm not sure what can stop a race. I was thinking about, okay, they're not going to stop a race for spectators dying or drivers dying, but I was thinking, what would make them actually stop a race? And I thought maybe an earthquake, but only if the earthquake physically splits the track open so the cars can't travel on the track anymore. There's a gap. There's a drop like 10 meters down.
Yeah.
They can't keep going.
That's right. Even if it was just like a little split, they'd just go, no, just keep going. Like it'd have to be like a huge kind of hole in the circuit.
Yeah.
I agree.
It has to stop all the cars. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what will stop a race. So let's see how this asphalt thing pans out.
So as the flag fell, Brooks went into an immediate lead, but Berra stalled and the entire field went past him before he was push started.
I think that puts Berra in the running for a nonsense start award, and I bet Enzo is writing this down in his special notebook. He's probably loving it.
I reckon there's like 70,000 pages of notes on Berra by this stage.
Yeah.
Moss was now in second place with Gregory, Brabham, P. Hill, Shell, Bonnier, Trintignant and McLaren following behind. Before long, the melting tarmac started to break up and lumps of tar were being thrown off car tyres.
Wow, this is just a safety issue and they really should stop the race, shouldn't they?
Well, it caused massive problems with goggles needing to be replaced for a few of the back markers, and Graham Hill needed to retire when a stone went through his radiator. Gregory, his race ended on lap 8 with a badly cut face and heat exhaustion. Bonnier also retiring with engine problems, but the race went on, Luigi.
Wow.
By lap 10, Brooks had opened up a 4-second lead.
This is a good race to be in the lead so that no tar gets flung into your face.
Yes.
And poor Gregory getting a badly cut face. And remember, these drivers primarily wore goggles, not a full face helmet. So that wouldn't have just been a cut, it would have been a burning cut.
Yes. So Trintignant is now in second, followed by Brabham, Moss, P. Hill and incredibly Berra, who had come through the field to be 6th. Trintignant then spun and stalled his engine in an effort to catch Brooks. Trintignant was able to push start his Cooper, but he was so fatigued he needed to pit for a break and a drink before resuming in 12th.
This is like next level getting out of your car and push starting your own car on the track. So I guess if you got outside help, Ugolini would protest wildly and you'd be disqualified. So maybe there's a reason the race organisers may stop a race. If someone gets outside assistance restarting their car, that and the race destroying earthquake. Racetrack destroying earthquake. So those are the only circumstances in which a race will be stopped.
I still wouldn't put money on the first one. But anyway.
But the funniness of that first one is the silliness of it, and that's the thing that cracks them.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm putting my money on it.
Okay. At half distance, Brooks had a comfortable lead as things tensed up behind him. P. Hill and Berra had both passed Moss, who was having clutch trouble, and they were now on Brabham's tail. Philip Hill overtook Brabham, the Ferrari's straight-line speed superior to the Cooper, but Berra overstrained his engine trying to do the same shortly afterwards and had to retire on lap 32.
So a little PS here. Remember Berra started his own F1 team and against Enzo Ferrari's agreement had entered into the F2 race?
Yeah, his own F2 team. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this happened after the F1 race. Well, he beat the Ferraris, the F2 Ferraris, and this didn't help matters with Enzo after he broke his car trying to get back to the front after stalling it on the line.
Wow. Yeah, Enzo would have been pissed. He would have been really upset with that.
Yeah, so on Sunday night after the races, Berra was involved in a strong discussion in a restaurant in which he punched Ferrari team manager Romolo Tavoni and another patron.
Oh, no.
And was instantly dismissed from the team, making this his last race for Ferrari.
Wow. Would that move to Ferrari did not go well at all. He usually made good moves throughout his career. And
he seemed to be their better driver, didn't he?
He was their kind of number one driver. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, back to the race. Moss, finding new inspiration, began to close up on Brabham and on lap 38 overtook him to take third. An exciting finish was on the cards, but on lap 43, Moss's clutch caused the engine to stall and he needed outside help to get him push started. Oh, no.
Where's Ugolini? Ugolini, quick.
And we might have a race stop now, Luigi, because someone's getting outside help to get push started.
Yeah, race stop, race disqualification, race everything.
Yeah. Well, the FIA are onto it and he was automatically disqualified.
Yeah.
So Brooks took the win comfortably 7 laps later, leading Phillip Hill and then Brabham in third, over a minute behind, after having to stop for new goggles due to flying tar.
Wow. It made me wonder when I read that if any other drivers that were sort of really paying attention thought, this is not going to be the first time I'm going to stop for goggles.
Yes.
I'll grab another couple of pairs and stick them in my pocket. And like, you know how the drivers of today have those tear-off visors.
Yes.
Just little things of plastic. They just throw the other goggle away because they can't risk to put it in the car because it might go under their pedals, but they throw the goggles out.
Just throw them out the window.
And have a new pair ready to go.
I would say that Fangio would have done that. If he was racing in this race, I reckon he would have done that.
Yeah, he would have done that for sure.
So the pits after the race was like a hospital, with nearly every driver suffering from cuts and bruises caused by flying stones and tar, not to mention heat exhaustion was just everywhere as well.
Yeah, this is crazy that the race went on despite that.
Yeah.
And, the mere fact you said it looked like a hospital.
Yeah.
They're not going to learn from it, and we know that.
Yeah.
But this is a good result for the old guard Ferrari team. This is their first win of the season.
Yep.
And a 1-2 on a track that maybe suited their car.
Yeah.
I guess it must have because they won.
Yes.
So,
yes. Yep.
So the Drivers' Championship we've got Brabham leading on 19 points, so he's being consistent. We have Brooks second on 14 points, Hill with 9 points, Bonnier with 8. And in the Constructors, we've got Cooper leading with 18 points, Ferrari with 16, second, BRM third with 8, and Lotus in fourth with 3 points.
Well, we might leave it there for this episode because there's a few more races to go and we'll finish off 1959 next week.
Excellent. See you later, everyone. Bye.
Bye. We have a Patreon.
Yay, we're a professional podcast now. So it means a lot to us if you are able to support the F1 Time Portal podcast.
For a small monthly fee, you not only get ad-free podcast content, you will also receive special episodes that are exclusively uploaded for our Patreon financial supporters.
We promise at least 2 additional exclusive episodes each month aligned to the decade we are up to in the show.
And you will also be able to make suggestions about any special episodes you may want us to research and present. We can't promise that we can do all of them, but we will consider them.
So, if that sounds like an entertainment bargain to you, go and sign up at patreon.com/F1 Time Portal today.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please tell your friends and non-F1 friends alike.
Yeah, and don't forget to rate us 5 stars or whatever highest is available on the podcast platform that you use.
We have a range of social media handles for you to connect with fellow listeners, so look up F1 Time Portal on all the usual platforms.
Or visit us at www.f1timeportal.com or email us at f1timeportal@gmail.com.
We would like to give credit to our primary reference materials, a series of books called Grand Prix by Mike Lang.
We also use many other written and digital references, which are in our show notes.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.